Hello, I want to welcome you to this evening's webinar on embroidery basics. We're going to look at hooping. I'm Dawn Andrew, embroidery specialist for OESD. The part of embroidery that requires the most skill but has the greatest payback is hooping. If you properly hoop, the fabric will yield the best results, which your outlines will match up, your fabric will be pucker free, and your stitching will be nice and smooth. Most of the time we want to work with 2 layers of stabilizer. And we'll discuss this as we go throughout the evening of talking about hooping different types of projects. The first thing that we want to do is prep the fabric. Be sure that your fabric or your project is clean and wrinkle-free. Also check your stabilizer and make sure it's wrinkle-free. You may want to press both of them if they are not. Next, we want to look for a flat working space so we can properly hoop our fabric. The ironing board is not a flat, hard surface, so let's find an area in our kitchen or on the table or the counter, or even if you have a cutting table. Those areas will work very nicely. So move some things around so that you can have some space. We're going to begin with our stabilizer flat on the work surface and the right side of the fabric facing you. In preparing your hoop, you want to loosen the screw to open up the hoop. Be sure that when you do that, this little nut will not fall off. So make sure this is all nice and open. You want to be sure there's enough room between the outside hoop and the inside hoop for your thickness that you're working with the fabric and your stabilizer. We're going to look at several different options for hooping. We want to start off with just the basic hooping. Basically, that is working with just a flat piece of fabric. So we're going to position the stabilizer on the back of the fabric to be embroidered. It's also very helpful to adhere the stabilizer to the fabric with some type of temporary spray adhesive, or if you're working with a stabilizer that is fusible, to iron it onto the wrong side of fabric. So let's talk about temporary spray adhesive for just a few moments. You want to be sure that your stabilizer sheet is in an area like a cardboard box, or take it outside in using your temporary spray adhesive. We don't want that to spray all over our embroidery machine and get things very sticky. So it's best to have a cardboard box to spray into, or take it into another room or even outside. Be sure and hold the spray adhesive can approximately 8 to 10 inches away, and then you're going to spray the stabilizer evenly. We're going to place it on the back of the fabric to be embroidered and smooth it out carefully. If we are adding additional layers, which we've talked about, we'll need probably 2 layers for most of our projects, then we want to be sure that we can fuse the 2 pieces of our stabilizer together with your temporary spray adhesive. So spray a stabilizer, place it on the back side of one of your stabilizers, and then spray that stabilizer and place it on the back of your fabric. Also, you might want to look at your instructions on your spray before using. Some of them say to shake your can, shake it first before using. Others work best if you don't. So be sure and check that on your temporary spray adhesive that you're working with. Okay, so once we have our fabric sprayed together with our stabilizer, then they act as one. So when they're in the hoop, they're not going to shift and move around on you. So now we're going to start at the top of the hoop. We've got the outer hoop on the table. We have the stabilizer and the fabric next, and then we have the inner ring or the inner hoop, and that's going to be placed inside. The screw on this one is down here at the bottom, so we're going to start up at the top and kind of move our way around to this bottom area and then slide it over to the end of the table and smooth out this area with your thumb and fingers whenever you're tightening this area. And that will keep from having any clumps of fabric or anything like that that would get in the way. Then next we want to be sure that we push the inner hoop out just a little bit. So it's important that this inner ring is out just a little bit from the outside ring. Part of that is so that the outside ring doesn't leave any marks or anything on the surface of your embroidery machine. Now we're ready to put our hoop on the embroidery machine and stitch out our design. Now the next thing that we're going to talk about is called what I call accurate hooping. So let's say we're taking a pair of pants, or as on the screen you see a purple project, and this is a knit t-shirt, and we want to put the design exactly on those items. So we will take, and as you see, the t-shirt is turned wrong side out, and we're going to adhere our stabilizer to the wrong side of our project using our temporary spray adhesive. There are 2 layers of this mesh cutaway stabilizer, and so again, fusible temporary spray adhesive is in the middle of it, and then it's folded in half, and then again spray the stabilizer and place it on the back of the project. If it's a fusible, then you can simply iron the layers into place. Next, we'll mark our project. So I take my template that comes with my hoop and make my little markings, the center point and the horizontal and vertical lines. You can also draw crosshairs on your project if you want to. Then we're going to use a double-sided fabric tape on the wrong side of that inner hoop. So we're going to put some tape here, across each other on the sides, and then a little pieces here on the ends. That's going to keep the hoop from shifting as we're hooping it in place. So we're going to place our template that goes with our hoop inside our inner hoop and line it up then with the markings that we've made on our project. Then place your outer hoop underneath and push it all in together so that it's completely hooped. By having the sticky tape on the wrong side that's connected to the fabric, it keeps it from shifting as you're trying to put it in the hoop, and you can then get an accurate hooping. Be sure now and remove your template, put this on the embroidery machine, and you're ready to stitch out your design. Now let's talk a little bit about when we're working with hard to hoop projects and working with our temporary spray. Basically, you're going to hoop your stabilizer only. I would only use the temporary spray if it's a project that doesn't require a lot of weight. It's not a very heavy project, because the temporary spray adhesive doesn't always hold projects that are really heavy in place very well. So the best way to get the best results for stitching is to have everything completely hooped. But every once in a while we run across something that it is difficult to hoop. And we're going to look at a couple other specialty stabilizers in just a moment as to items that would be better than the temporary spray. But this is just in case we need to hoop something very light. So you're going to mark your stabilizer that's already hooped, spray the temporary spray adhesive on the stabilizer, mark your garment or your project. If you need to, turn it inside out, line up your markings and place the garment on the stabilizer. Now let's talk about using the stable stick. The stable stick is going to help to hold your project better in the hoop than the temporary spray adhesive. This is a stabilizer that has a paper side to it, and when you remove the paper there is an adhesive coating. A couple weeks ago we did a webinar on stabilizers, and if you happen to not be able to be here for that, then that is already uploaded on our YouTube channel under Embroidery Online, and you can watch what we have to say about the different types of stabilizer. But the stable stick comes in cutaway and tearaway. So you're going to hoop it with the paper side up. We're going to mark the stabilizer on the front. So using your template, you would mark it on the front, and then turn over the hoop and make those same markings on the back. Because once you remove your paper, it's going to take away your markings, so you want to be sure that it's marked. And now we're going to use a garment that is a knit sweater. We're going to mark it with our markings, and if we need to, we'll turn our garment inside out. And we're going to line up. I take a straight pen, place it in the center point, line it up with the stabilizer center point, and then smooth out my project, making sure there's no bubbles, but also making sure I'm not stretching, especially if I'm working with a knit. So, and then just completely line up your markings. Now this project, it is a napped or textured fabric, so we want to work with a washaway. So I take a piece of washaway, lightly spray it with a little bit of temporary spray adhesive, and place it over the top. Then I'm ready to put this on the embroidery machine and stitch out my design. The last stabilizer that we're going to talk about is the Hydrostick. And the Hydrostick comes in a tearaway. It has a shiny side to it, and it is the side that we're going to dampen with water that activates the starch-based glue that's on top of it. And that will help hold our items in place. So hoop only your stabilizer. You're going to mark your stabilizer on the front, so using your template we're going to mark, and then again turn it over on the wrong side and make those markings as well, because once we dampen this with our wet sponge, it will erase these markings, so we want them still to be there. We just only want to dampen the Hydrostick. We don't want to spritz it with water. We don't want to pour water on it. We just want to dampen it so that it will release the glue so that it will stick to our project. Now in working with the Hydrostick, I like to use bath towels, heavy items, those real hard to hoop projects with the Hydrostick, because it's the one that holds your project in place the best. It does not move until you redampen the water or redampen the stabilizer. You're going to mark your project, in this case the towel, so draw your crosshairs on it. If you need to, turn your garment inside out. You'll line up the markings like we did with the stable stick. I place a pin in the center and then line it up with the markings on the stabilizer, and then line up the other markings on the stabilizer and smooth it out. Also, because this is a project with loops on it, we want to use the Washaway on top as well. So we're going to cut a piece of Washaway, spray it with a little bit of temporary spray adhesive, and place it then on top of the towel. We then are ready to place this on our embroidery machine to stitch out our design. Once we are done embroidering our design, then we are ready to remove the stabilizer. And with the Hydrostick, it's a tearaway, so we want to be sure that we have all of the glue is not holding on to the towel anymore. And if we do that, then we won't pull any loops on the towel. So you can do a couple different things. You can take and kind of trim around the tearaway and then throw it in the wash machine, and the glue will disappear in the washing, and then you can tear it around your design. Or you can just re-dampen the stabilizer and just gradually let it be released from the project. So there's a couple different ways that you can do that. And this is the design that we've used on the front of the towel. Most of our information that we're using today is already posted on a blog on embroideryonline.com or on embdesignstudio.com under tips. So you're welcome to read that, or if you want to have it in written form, then it will be there. Also, this webinar is being recorded, so in the next couple of days we will have it posted on our YouTube channel under Embroidery Online. After the webinar, if in the next few days or so and you're working on a project and you have questions, you can also get a hold of us at support@oesd.com. Okay, now I would like to open it up for questions. If anyone has a question, you're welcome to type it in the chat box. Does anybody have a question? Okay, I don't see any questions coming through. So let me thank you for attending with me this evening, and we will let you know when the next webinar comes. Thank you so much and have a good evening.